In a world that rarely separates hype from hustle, Deion Sanders just drew a line in the dirt, and on one side of it stands his son, Shedeur Sanders, proving day after day that legacy doesn't entitle you to greatness. You have to earn it, and according to Coach Prime, Shedeur has been doing exactly that. This wasn't some generic interview moment or pre-scripted press conference fluff. It was raw. It was human. It was a father pulling back the curtain. Not to brag, not to defend, but to clarify who Shedeur really is behind the jersey, behind the name, and behind the avalanche of speculation that's followed him since the second he stepped into an NFL facility. If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed. And it started with one powerful idea. Shedeur doesn't want the easy way. Deion shared something that caught everyone off guard. Shedeur specifically asked his father not to attend training camp. Not because of ego, not because of rebellion, but because he wanted to stand alone. He wanted every drill, every rep, every coach's stare to come without a shadow trailing behind him. He wanted no whispers of "Daddy's watching" or "He's only here because of Prime." He didn't just want to earn it. He wanted to fight for it. And fight he has. While other rookies might crumble under the pressure of being both the son of Hall of Famer and the centerpiece of a viral media storm, Shedeur's been calm, surgical, and locked in. Deion says it's not new. That's who he's always been, he explained. Focused, prepared, hungry, not for fame, for football. And make no mistake, Shedeur's hunger isn't performative. This isn't about chasing headlines or trying to build a brand before he's built a resume. This is about football, plain and simple. The kid wants to win. He wants to lead. He wants to be the one taking the snap with the game on the line, not for a photo op, but for a legacy of his own. It's that mindset, combined with relentless work ethic, that's turning heads around the Browns facility. Even the veterans, the ones who've been through the revolving door quarterback experiments in Cleveland, are starting to look at Shedeur differently. Not as a coach's kid, not as a flashy new face, but as a player, a leader, maybe even the guy. But it wasn't always this clear. When the Browns first brought Shedeur into the fold, it was messy. The draft selection was awkward. Ownership reportedly didn't support the pick. Reps in practice were limited. Political currents swirled in every meeting room. And through it all, Shedeur said nothing. He didn't tweet. He didn't pout. He showed up. And that's exactly what Deion emphasized in his emotional breakdown of the situation. He never complained, he said. I've benched him before. I've yelled at him in practice. I've made him earn every inch. He knows what hard coaching feels like, and he still shows up ready to lead. For Deion the father, that's pride. For Deion the coach, that confirmation. Shedeur isn't a product of hype. He's a product of standards. It's one of the reasons Deion refuses to coddle him. Even now, I never told a coach to go easy on him. I told him to coach him harder. Because when you carry this name, you don't get to be average. You don't get to be soft. And that mindset, grit over gloss, is starting to show. In recent practices, Shedeur's been stacking good days like bricks. Short yardage drills, sharp reads, 2-minute offense, poised execution, red zone efficiency, best among the quarterback group. He's not just surviving, he's taking command. Analysts who were skeptical a few weeks ago are now adjusting their tones. Nick Wright even went as far as calling Shedeur one of the most mature rookies he's ever seen step into a QB room. Not just because of the throws, but because of the way Shedeur carries himself. He's vocal in the huddle. He corrects mistakes. He makes eye contact with coaches when he asks questions. And most importantly, he doesn't shy away from pressure. One coach reportedly said, if there's a blitz coming, Shedeur wants the ball in his hands. Not to check down, to beat it. That's not arrogance. That's confidence forged through adversity, through watching film at 2 a.m., through running hill sprints after practice because it didn't feel good enough, through knowing that no matter what he does, people find a way to attribute it to someone else. Which brings us back to Deion, because the fire in Deion's voice wasn't just about defending a son. It was about dismantling a narrative. The one that says personality is a problem. The one that says quarterbacks have to be robotic to be reliable. the one that fears charisma, that minimizes swagger, that pretends leadership is only valid when it comes wrapped in quiet conformity. And Deion said it plainly. My son ain't like the others. He's not pretending to be humble. He's actually humble. You just don't see it because he's confident, and most folks don't know how to tell the difference. That distinction matters, because in the NFL, perception is currency, and when you're young, black, and have a last name that echoes through ESPN highlight reels, the margin for error disappears. Every celebration becomes cocky. Every mistake becomes a red flag. Deion knows this game too well. He's lived it, and that's why he's not letting the league, or its outdated expectations, dictate his son's story. He made it crystal clear. Shedeur wasn't handed anything. Not the starting job at Jackson State. Not the transfer to Colorado. And certainly not this opportunity in Cleveland. He earned it. Every throw, every rep, every headline. Now the Browns have a choice. With the preseason heating up and the first real test looming, the team has to decide if it wants to lead from the future or stay married to the past, stick with experience, or bet on a player who's earned more than anyone expected him to this early. And here's the twist. Deion isn't begging anyone to choose Shedeur. He's not asking for favors. He's just asking for fairness. If Shedeur wins the reps, let him keep them. If he outplays the competition, let him lead. Simple, because the stats are there, the performance is there, the support in the locker room is growing, and most importantly, the intangibles, the leadership, the mental toughness, the preparation, are impossible to ignore. But if they do ignore it, well, then Deion will be right there again, not to attack, but to remind them, don't say you didn't see it coming. Because this isn't just about Shedeur's path. It's about breaking the mold for the next generation of quarterbacks who talk different, carry themselves different, and play with fire that doesn't always fit in the box the NFL built decades ago. This is about more than father and son. It's about changing the way the league defines readiness, toughness, and leadership. And if Cleveland can't see that, someone else will. Because Shedeur Sanders isn't just prepared. He's prepared despite every obstacle thrown in front of him. And that, more than arm strength or footwork or schemes, is what makes him dangerous, not just to opposing defenses, but to anyone still clinging to an old script about who gets the lead. Because with every throw, every practice, and every moment of pressure, Shedeur's writing a new one that has nothing to do with his last name, and everything to do with the one thing Deion taught him that can't be coached: relentless belief, not just in himself, but in the work. What separates Shedeur Sanders from the rest isn't just mechanics. It's not just footwork or arm strength. It's not even the clutch throws in training camp or the growing respect from veterans around him. What really sets him apart is something that's becoming increasingly rare in a league obsessed with pre-draft metrics and brand-building potential. It's accountability. According to Deion Sanders, that's been the foundation of Shedeur's upbringing, not just in football, but in life. Every decision Shedeur makes, every throw he attempts, comes with the understanding that he owns the outcome. No finger-pointing. No excuses. That attitude is quietly becoming his signature, and players around him notice. There's a story from early in camp that a lot of folks missed. During a red zone install session, a miscommunication led to a busted play. The receiver broke one way. The ball went the other. Classic misread. Instead of getting flustered or blaming the route, Shedeur called the receiver over, went to the whiteboard himself, and talked through the concept with him. One of the assistants reportedly said, "Don't see rookies doing that. That's a vet move." It wasn't flashy. It didn't make the highlight reel. But it mattered, because in a quarterback room that's still finding its identity, moments like that build trust, not just with coaches, but with teammates. And in this league, especially in a city like Cleveland where quarterback consistency has been mythologized like folklore, that kind of trust is everything. But trust, unfortunately, doesn't always guarantee opportunity. And that's where things get murky. Despite everything Shedeur has shown, despite his poise, precision, and command, there are still whispers within the organization. Whispers about whether he's truly ready. Whispers about whether giving him the keys too soon could backfire. Whispers about optics, contracts, and locker room politics. It's that same old dance, where football decisions get tangled up in ego, image, and inertia, and Deion Sanders isn't having it. He knows what happens when a player is treated like a mascot instead of a leader. He's seen it. He's lived it. So when he hears front office types dismissing Shedeur's rise as a media narrative, he doesn't just take it personally, he takes it publicly. Because for Deion, this isn't just about this season. It's about every quarterback who's ever been told they need to wait in line, even after proving they can play. It's about shaking the system that often values polish over production and pedigree over persistence. Shedeur is not just trying to win a starting job. He's trying to redefine what readiness looks like in a league that still doesn't know how to measure leadership unless it fits neatly into a scouting report. And yet, in the middle of all this noise, there he is on the field putting in work. At this point in camp, Shedeur is leading in nearly every metric the coaches are tracking. Red zone efficiency, turnover rate, time to throw, decision-making and simulated pressure. He's either at the top or right behind. More importantly, the offense moves with him. That's the thing fans notice in open practices. The pace changes when Shedeur takes the huddle. The tempo picks up. The players stop going through the motions and start playing with rhythm. That's not by accident. That's presence. That's what leaders bring. Veteran players like Amari Cooper and David Njoku have already taken notice. Quietly, they've been requesting more reps with Shedeur during install sessions. Not for politics, for reps, because they know what it feels like to have a quarterback who's decisive, who understands timing, who doesn't need to be babied through reads. And while Joe Flacco still brings experience to the room, and no one's questioning his football IQ, the truth is, Flacco was never meant to be the future in Cleveland. He's a stopgap, a mentor, an insurance policy, and he's handled that role with grace. But even Flacco, in a recent internal meeting, reportedly said, "That kid's ready. If he's not, he's damn close." Let that sink in. A Super Bowl winning quarterback just vouched for a rookie he's technically competing with. That's not just professionalism. That's validation. But here's the problem. The Browns have a history of hesitating when it's time to make a bold move. They've gone conservative at the worst moments, fearing media backlash, fan frustration, and their own bad habits. And now, they're on the brink of doing it again. But this time, they won't just be stalling a rookie's development. They'll be stalling a movement. Because Shedeur Sanders isn't just a quarterback with talent. He's a signal, a sign that the old rules don't work anymore. That the quarterback of the future doesn't have to be a 6-year bench warmer who waited his turn. He can be 22. He can have a father named Deion. He can have swagger and discipline. He can be smart and aggressive. He can be both. Deion knows that, and that's why he's not biting his tongue anymore. In private, Deion reportedly told a source, "I won't beg anyone to believe in my son, but I will expose those who try to hold him back." That's not helicopter parenting. That's a coach who's watched the system chew up promising talent for decades, and finally sees a chance to break the pattern. And make no mistake, players around the league are watching, too. Shedeur's rise and the resistance to it is starting to resonate with other young quarterbacks, especially those who feel boxed in by the system. They're seeing how politics can slow progress, how narrative can outweigh film, how even when you do everything right, the door still doesn't open until you kick it down. So what happens next? That's the million-dollar question. With preseason rapidly approaching and reps tightening up, the Browns are going to be forced to tip their hand. They can't keep hiding behind competition forever. They're going to have to name a starter. And if it's not Shedeur, there will be consequences. Not just in terms of fan backlash, but in terms of trust. Players who have watched this process up close will remember how it played out. They'll remember who earned it and who was handed it. That stuff sticks. That's what shapes locker room culture. And that's why Deion's message matters. Because he wasn't just defending Shedeur. He was warning Cleveland. Don't miss this. Don't let fear win again. Don't let a generational talent slip away because of pride. Because here's what we know. The window in the NFL is always closing. Teams spend years trying to find a quarterback who's smart, accurate, and composed under pressure. And when one falls into your lap, you play him. You don't overthink it. You don't politic it. You play him. Shedeur Sanders is ready. Everyone inside the building knows it, even the ones who won't say it out loud. Now the Browns have to decide if they want to make history or just repeat it, because Deion isn't going away. Shedeur isn't going away. And this moment, it's not going away either. It's going to find this franchise for years to come, whether it's as the team that bet on the future or the team that got scared and blinked. Choose wisely, Cleveland, because not all second chances are this obvious. As pressure intensifies in Berea, Ohio, and the quarterback room grows quieter by the day, the storm around Shedeur Sanders is no longer just media hype. It's a full-blown cultural reckoning within the Cleveland Browns organization. Behind closed doors, the coaching staff can feel it. The locker room feels it. Hell, even the janitors are whispering about it. This is no longer just about preseason reps or who has the best arm in camp. It's about what this franchise represents going forward. And Shedeur? He's quietly becoming the heartbeat of the Browns' identity crisis. You can track the shift in subtle ways, like the fact that the offensive line is communicating cleaner with Shedeur under center, or that the wide receivers seem more locked in when he's calling the plays, or even the way the defensive unit suddenly treats practice like game day when it's Shedeur lining up opposite them. They're testing him because they respect him, because they see the intangibles. And in this league, that stuff isn't just football folklore. It's currency. And here's the kicker. Shedeur isn't even asking for the job. He's just outplaying everyone else. That's what's making this so complicated for Cleveland brass. If he were lobbying for attention, if he were calling out veterans or pushing narratives online, they'd have something to push back against. But he's not. He's letting the tape do the talking, which is exactly what scares them. Because now, the spotlight isn't just on Shedeur, it's on everyone else. On the coaches, on the general manager, on the owner, all of whom now have to justify their next move, whatever it is, in the face of overwhelming evidence that the rookie might be the real deal. You got scouts whispering things like, he reminds me of early Russell Wilson. You got defensive backs saying he's reading the field like a fourth-year vet. You got backup type and saying it feels different when he's in the huddle. Not louder, not flashier, just clearer. And this isn't Colorado anymore. This isn't a storybook college comeback with viral highlights and sideline swag. This is NFL, where reputations are forged under duress. And Shedeur Sanders is already moving like a man who knows the clock is ticking. On him, on this team, on this moment. Because here's what's really at stake. If Cleveland doesn't make the right move now, if they waste this momentum, they don't just risk losing Shedeur. They risk losing the locker room. The vets, the grinders, the blue-collar guys who know what it takes to win. They know when someone's got it. And when that guy gets buried for politics, that's how locker rooms fracture. That's how trust erodes. Shedeur's situation is already being watched around the league. Quietly, other franchises are taking notes. If the Browns fumble this, don't be surprised if a half-dozen quarterback-hungry teams come knocking, because that's how fast reputations shift in this league. One team's not quite ready is another team's franchise cornerstone, and Deion Sanders knows this better than anyone. He's not standing in the way of Shedeur earning it. He's standing in the way of excuses. That's why he's been so vocal. Not because he wants to fast-track his son's career, but because he knows how narratives get twisted, how the same flair that's called leadership in some quarterbacks is framed as arrogance in others. Deion's not fighting the Browns. He's fighting the old NFL, the one that still clings to gatekeeping logic and resents players who don't fit their mold, the one that punishes individuality instead of harnessing it. But make no mistake, Shedeur doesn't need protection. He needs a shot, and if the Browns won't give it to him, he'll earn it somewhere else. Yet, the ironic tragedy is this. He wants a win in Cleveland. He wants to be the guy who turns this franchise around, who brings life to a team that's known more for its draft busts than its dynasties. And right now, he's given them every reason to believe he can. Take last week's scrimmage, for example. Shedeur was clinical, not just good clinical, for drives, 3 touchdowns, no turnovers. One of those touchdowns came on a broken play where he rolled left, directed traffic with his offhand, and delivered a perfect strike across his body to the back of the end zone. That's not just athleticism. That's vision. That's pocket awareness. That's the stuff you can't teach. And while Shedeur was lighting it up, the other quarterbacks. Safe, conservative, predictable, nothing disastrous, but nothing inspiring either. And you don't win rings with safe. You win rings with special. The Browns know that. They've been looking for it for years. And it's standing right in front of them. So now what? The coaches huddle after every session. The analytics team pushes numbers. The media watches every throw frame by frame. Everyone's searching for a crack in the narrative, a reason to say not yet. But the cracks aren't in Shedeur's game. They're in the institution's willingness to embrace change. Because letting a rookie lead means admitting that your vet plan might not pan out. It means humbling some contracts. It means possibly embarrassing yourself if it doesn't work. And that fear, that's what's stalling progress. But Shedeur doesn't have time for fear. He's already lived under the microscope. He's already handled more pressure in one season at Colorado than most rookies see in their entire careers. The media circus, the critics, the social media trolls, the coach's kid doubters, none of it broke him. In fact, it built him. And now he's carrying that resilience into a league that demands nothing less. Meanwhile, the fans are waking up. Social media is buzzing. Jerseys are starting to fly off shelves. And in Cleveland, a city that's been burned before, hope is starting to flicker again. They're not asking for a miracle. They're asking for a chance. And right now, Shedeur Sanders is their best one. The Browns' next move? It's going to find this era of the franchise. Either they break the cycle or they repeat it. Either they lean into the bold, the new, the earned, or they fold under the weight of comfort and convention. There's no in-between, because a player like Shedeur doesn't come around often. He's not just another rookie fighting for relevance. He's a rare combination of preparation, poise, and purpose. And whether or not Cleveland recognizes that before it's too late, that's up to them. But one thing for sure, Deion will continue to speak up. The locker room will continue to rally behind him, and Shedeur, he'll keep showing up early, staying late, and delivering under pressure, because that's who he is. Not just a name, not just a headline, but a quarterback